Hey everyone, before we get into the video, if you wanted to have us review your gameplay for free, be sure to head down into the description and click that Discord link where you can submit your games for us to go over. Thanks, and let's get into the video. Kayo is one of the newest agents added to Valorant, and as with some of the previous new agents, he's one that doesn't see a ton of play yet. Think about it, when Yoru was first released, not much play. Same thing with Skye and Astra. But over time, at least with Skye and Astra, it seems players have started to pick these agents up a lot more, and some players may even believe that these agents are overpowered right now. Now, like we said, the same thing didn't happen with Yoru per se, but it does actually pose the question of, is Kayo actually stronger than people realize? Because although Skye did receive some pretty awesome buffs recently, it's still a very similar premise for her, and it's hard to believe that some small changes may have taken her from weak to one of the best agents in the game. What this says to me is that she was probably pretty strong before, and people just didn't really realize it. So is it the same thing for Kayo? Well, in the interest of taking a look at what a top-level Kayo player can do, we're going to compare a Diamond-level Kayo player today with a Radiant-level Kayo player and talk about the difference between both of their play. Sounds good to you? Sweet, let's get into it. The Diamond player goes by the name of Binds, and he's currently an Initiator main who plays a lot of Skye, but he's looking to pick up Kayo recently. Luckily, he's going to be playing on Split, which is a map that I consider to be one of Kayo's better maps, so this will give us a really good opportunity to break down his gameplay. Something I wanted to comment on is Binds seems to be pretty mindful of what's going on with his teammates, but sometimes it feels like he may be worrying about what they're doing a little bit too much. Notice how in this first round I'm going to show you, Binds spends basically a lot of it doing nothing. And you could tell by his movements, it's not because he's intentionally baiting his teammates, it's because he quite literally is just looking at his map and trying to make a decision of what he should do. He doesn't know what to do right now, clearly, and he wants to go help his teammates in middle, but he also doesn't want to leave his Omen. And I respect that he actually has this awareness to at least recognize what is going on with his team throughout the round. But let's talk about this a bit more. He probably needs to calm down a little bit with looking at the map here and actually focus on what's going on in front of him. He can't help this Omen from all the way back here with his knife out. It's literally just not going to happen. And he has this habit of pulling out his knife a lot. Maybe it's just because of the animation with the fan looks cool or something, but literally just gun out, please. He can't shoot anything with his knife, and if anything catches you off guard here, you're literally screwed. And the other thing I'd like to point out though is although he's mindful of what his team is doing right now, he's not really utilizing it to his advantage. His entire team is making noise in middle, which is actually great for his current position. And keep in mind, you don't need to be with your teammates to help them. And by pushing up through B main here, he could easily assist his teammates in middle. The Heaven players can't exactly turn around to help this B main player while they have 3 players barreling down middle. This is actually a great opportunity for Binds to initiate this push and put pressure on the Reyna with his Omen. But notice how by the time that Binds actually decides to make this decision, his entire team is now dead in middle. This is why it's important to be mindful of what your team is doing, but it's even more important to know what to do with that information. Because Binds clearly knew that his Omen was pressuring B main, and his other teammates were pressuring mid, but he didn't really know what to do himself in this situation, and that's what really ended up hurting his team this round. And for the record, I will point out to the end of my days that Binds ends up in a 1v3 in this situation, but this round is by no means his teammates' fault. Look through this round carefully and tell me what exactly he accomplished. The answer is pretty much nothing, unfortunately. Let's compare this to a game from Jaden's VOD though, and by the way, if you wanted to see the full VOD from Jaden where he walks you through his thought process throughout the entire game and why he makes the plays that he makes, that all is available on our website. It's also backed by our rank improvement guarantee, so it's literally no risk. So if you wanted to learn how to carry in your rank from actual Radiant players, be sure to check out SkillCapped.com, link in the description below. Notice how in this round though, Jaden is going to be attacking on Icebox, and obviously we can't put Jaden in the exact same situation that Binds was, but what I want you all to notice here is both how Jaden takes initiative in this round, but also how he plays around his teammates' positioning later in the round. Starting out, you'll notice how Jaden is going to see the Omen smoke in front of him, and he uses his KO knife to scan the area and spot if anybody is playing close. The cool thing about this knife is, if it tags anyone, you know that somebody is playing close so they can play more safely around this smoke. However, if it doesn't tag anyone, that means that they can push up just a little bit more aggressively into this smoke because they know for a fact that nobody is playing there. Notice how this knife does tag the Omen, so immediately Jaden starts spraying into the smoke and is able to pick up a kill onto the enemy Omen to start the round. But this is where he starts to take initiative. His team gets a second pick in middle, meaning that the player on the back of A is likely the last one on site. This is why Jaden pops his ultimate and immediately starts to lead the way to pressure this player. Because he took the initiative here, he gives his team the space that they need, and I want you to compare this to the other Kayo's Omen in the last VOD. His Omen clearly didn't want to make the move onto site, but realistically they had the opportunity to do so if they wanted to together. Vines should have taken the initiative to lead his team onto site, just like how Jaden does so here. But the other thing I think is cool about this round is that Jaden immediately switches gears and goes to watch the team's flank because he realizes that nobody is currently doing that. And this is the thing that I think is really great about initiators in Valorant. They're really capable of filling pretty much any role for their team. You can watch flanks, you can engage, they can flash for their teammates, or they can flash for themselves. They're sort of like a jack of all trades, but it takes a lot of awareness of understanding what your team is doing and then what you can do to help them with that. Notice how finally again, at the very end of this round, this Reyna is going to start taking a duel with the last two players, and immediately Jaden jumps in to duel those players with her. Many players may have sat back and watched this duel take place, however Jaden immediately runs up to help her, and that's just a sign of a good player. This is something Bynes tried to do with his Omen, however because he was sitting so far away with his knife out, he wasn't really able to do so. Going back to our Diamond Chaos game though, let's take a look at a defensive round, because obviously one round doesn't show a full story to a game. Sometimes people have a bad round, and then you can just gloss over it as, oh well, it happens. But by viewing this next round, it will actually start to paint a little bit of a story for us, and that's the whole point of VOD review by the way, to help you point out bad habits. Because one-off mistakes are one thing, but mistakes that you make often are the most important things to fix. So let's actually let this round play out, and then we'll talk about it afterwards, okay?
Swarm grenade out.
Cover going out. The hunt begins.
Alright, so what are your takeaways from this round? Well, hopefully one of the first things that you'll notice is that he still has 2 flashes at the time of his death, meaning that one of the strongest parts of his kit was literally just not used. But the other thing that we mentioned from the last time that we looked at Bynes was he's still pulling out his freaking knife. Look how exposed he is right here. If anybody peeks him from this pillar, he is instantly dead. Now, he's lucky that the pillar is actually mollied at this point in time, and maybe that's why he felt he could pull out his knife here, but it's really just not worth it for the small amount of extra speed that he might get here. But let's go back to the more important part, which was his flashes. And you'll notice how Bynes ends up pulling out his flash, but he never ends up actually throwing it here, I'm assuming because he has a fear of hitting his teammates with it. So what are some good flashes that he could have thrown from this position? Well, in the background, you'll see a couple of flashes that he could have thrown that would have been decently useful. But what's important to remember is that when you're on an eco like his team is right now, utility is your best friend. You're behind in gunpowder, and although you may have numbers right now, this round is still easily losable if you're just running at them like his team was. And as you'll notice, this round ends up being incredibly close because of this. Where instead, what could have happened is Bynes just chucks both of his flashes back sight, and the round is instantly over. Let's take a look at one more round from our Radiant Kayo now, this time on defense. This round is going to actually be on pistol rounds, so there isn't going to be much utility going out, but what I really want you to notice is how every single one of Jaden's actions here has a purpose. You'll notice immediately as this guy makes contact from back sight, Jaden is going to peek maze to see if he can grab a kill. Then, rather than re-peeking, he throws his flash, knowing that the enemies will be looking in his direction. This is to help him slow down any fast pushes after his sky gets picked off. Then, as his teammates come in and pick up maze for him, he immediately switches locations to watch the other side of sight, and because of this, he's able to find a pick onto the enemy Omen. And then, he immediately switches once again to help his teammates on maze. Then once again, he is going to pre-aim the other side of sight and find a third kill in the round. The thing I'm trying to point out here is that if you watch his movements, he's not being indecisive with his peeks, or pulling out his knife, or his util, and switching back. When he holds an angle, he holds an angle. When he peeks an angle, he peeks the angle. When he goes for a flash, he throws his flash. Remember, confidence plays such a huge factor in games like this, and even if you make the wrong decision, if you do it with confidence, sometimes you can get away with it. But if you're walking around not really sure about what to do, it's really easy to see in your gameplay, and it can play a massive role in you losing rounds. Lastly though, if you guys don't mind, I'd like to finish off the video by telling you a little bit more about SkillCapped. So we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee, which we think is pretty crazy. It's like your gym promising that you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offered you that, right? Not us. That's how confident we are that our service works. Every week we push a ton of new content to the site with one goal in mind, helping you become a better player. So what are you waiting for? Be sure to check out skillcapped.com, link in the description below. As always though, my name is King and we here at SkillCapped want to thank you all for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.